Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome to Receiving Noor's weekly Quran study, where we are studying the 29th word, now on the second aim, the 8th point, where we are intending to make it very discussional, practical, so we can go in our daily lives and try to practice how is it that we can take what Imam Nursi rahimahullah is offering, reflect on it, and really see whether we can come to similar conclusions of whether or not this is true for us in our life. So far, with the help of our resident scholar, Dr. Yamina, we have been studying angels, their necessary existence, and their immediate presence in our immediate sphere in all things. In fact, there is not any single matter except that along with it is an angelic presence that we often neglect and are completely unaware of. And now the necessity of eternity, akhirah. So last week we had a review of everything that we have studied thus far, and inshallah today we intend to maybe review the 8th point, Nurbanu, inshallah, and then begin the 9th. Bi'Iznillah. Nurbanu, do you want to read the 8th point or do you want me to?
I'll read the 8th point first. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. 8th point. Man's conscience, which is his conscious nature, looks to and points to eternal happiness. Yes, if anyone listens to awakened conscience, he will hear a voice crying, eternity, eternity. Should the whole universe be given to such a conscience, it could not satisfy its need for eternity. That is to say, the conscience being attracted and drawn in this way is possible only because it is attracted by a true aim and captivating truth. The conclusion of the 11th truth of the 10th word demonstrates this fact. I have a habit of whenever I see people bringing this need, like putting this need into words unconsciously, I like, taking a screenshot or saving it. So I have like kind of an album of these things that I've seen, like sometimes in music, sometimes in blogs, sometimes you see it on like an Instagram post. People say things that when you read between the lines, you hear that voice crying, eternity, eternity. And this morning, I subscribed to a blog, and the post that came from the writer this morning was basically just this, and I want to share a part of it with you guys. So it's from this blog called Small Potatoes. And this guy, he writes about this ideal dog that he would like. He says, I don't own a dog now, too much hassle. What I'd like now is something that looks and acts just like a dog, something that would offer all of the companionship and fun that I got from Tessie, which was his dog before, but that didn't eat, didn't poo, didn't shed, and would never bite a child, destroy furniture, or loud. Something that didn't cost a bundle in bills, something you didn't have to deal with when you wanted to travel, something that would never die. So he kind of goes on about this ideal dog. Um, but before he gets to this part, he gives some statistics about people's pets. Um, and then, there's some like, okay, how much Americans spend on dogs and stuff. But people are really, really close with their pets and they have this emotional connection, right? 1 out of 5 cat and dog owners said they prefer spending one-on-one time with their pet than with their significant other. On average, people said they would be more devastated if their dog ran away than if their partner broke up with them. Um, because I think something that pets represent, two things were coming to me with this article and knowing that we were gonna go back to the 8th point today. One is something that pets represent is this unconditional companionship that we are seeking, that is a need that we have. It's always there. It's kind of dependent on you. It won't like, it won't have the complexities or the, uh, you know, heartbreak or anything like that with a human being. And the other thing is, okay, you experience this thing with your pet, and then that experience reminds you how devastating it is to lose the pet. So he wants a pet that will never die. And we kind of have this in every little experience that we have, actually. So I thought that was really nice. Not a coincidence, but just like God aligning, I think this topic for me. Personally, that's what I felt. Because it was okay, if anyone listens to his own awakened conscience, he will hear a voice crying, eternity, eternity. And the eternity, we're talking about eternal happiness. So a lot of the other things he was listing was also like, okay, I want the pet and the companionship and the happiness and the fun and all of that, but I don't want any of the hassle. I don't want the shedding. I don't want the material, like dirtiness, the cleaning up, any of that. So there's this in everyone, it seems. And I have 2 cats of my own. So I really feel what he was saying. And today was cleaning litter day for me too. And I was like, man, like if only my cats, didn't have this or didn't do this. And it's like, okay, well, in this world, I have this need or I want this thing and it's just not possible here. The option that he gives in the blog is, well, you can only do it with a robot dog, but it's just not the same, right? Like, yeah, a robot dog won't shed, but it also won't, like, you won't have that same feeling in its eyes or something. So I felt like today, really, I felt that the 8th point was speaking to me. Even when I was cleaning my cat's litter, I was like, this is not the most pleasant experience, but that's saying something to me because I can't have like I can't have eternal happiness. I can't have perfection here, but that's what I'm desiring. Even in this very small moment, in this very menial task, that's what my soul wants. That's what I really want deep down. So that was my reflection. Would anyone like to share anything for the 8th point? Or if you guys yeah, have anything, any questions that came up for you, any reflections from the week? Go ahead, Ziba.
Assalamualaikum.
Right.
The phrase of everyone flying eternity, it reminded me, I had gone for 2 weeks to India and I left my waters, my plants, and I asked my son to water them. And there was one plant which was slightly under the table, slid under the table, so he couldn't see it. And when I came back, like the feeling I had after I saw that plant was like just losing something which you value. And so that move, I think when you're saying eternity, like I wanted it to be in the same state and in a healthy state, not to die. And subhanAllah, I kept praying, may it come back to life. I kept watering, and then I took it out, and
Ziba,
subhanAllah.
could you get a little closer to the mic? I think some people are having trouble hearing you.
Yeah, but actually I'm outside. Maybe
That might be
can
it.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear better now.
Okay, so yeah, so my point was like just seeing that plant, like it's a plant, it's a living thing, and I interact with it, the joy it gives you. So people, I didn't like once I kept it out and the small sprouts coming out from it, leaves, the shoot, and it gave me an immense joy, that it was still alive. People have found replacements, like we have artificial plants we can put in, but the same thing which you're saying, the robotic dog doesn't have the same feeling which we get from a live dog. Similarly with plants also, the interaction Allah has put between us and the plant, it is something malakuti, like we you can't have it with a artificial plant, it will be very limited. So I think I could relate to this. Like I wanted that plant to exist and to stay as it is in the best state I left it in. So that was my, I think, I went on that. That it brought me back that incident. I wanted to share that.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think that's actually great. The eternity aspect is we see it all the time with artificial imitations of things that we like you said, like with the plants. We like plants, we don't like that they die and that they require so much care, and um, there's no guarantee that even if you do everything that it says in the instructions, it's going to actually bloom. So you want it to be there in all its beauty whole year round. But when it's artificial, it's just not giving the same thing. So you're living this contradiction. You want eternity, and when you try to get it in this world, it's just not satisfying. And then when you interact with the real thing, it's just reminding you you're not meant to stay here. Like, I'm a messenger, which is why I'm leaving. You want eternity, and the reason I'm leaving is because, okay, you form a connection with me, with the real flower, with the real dog, and then it unlocks this experience for you that even though you want it to be permanent, it can't be permanent. So that is something exciting for you. The real thing can do that for you. Thank you. Can you guys hear me well? No. No. Let's try to get closer to that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me see.
Okay, so in the meantime, Nurbano, can everybody hear me okay? Because I didn't know, I wasn't sure if it was just my internet connection, maybe.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Two things really struck me, and then I have a just question for Dr. Yamina about the text itself. So Nurbanu, when you started by saying the man with the dog and just comparing to some ideal situation without realizing, I think all day we're doing it. I like this or I don't like this. It's so easy to get entangled in the like or the dislike because we're interacting with likes and dislikes all day. If we're careful, our likes and dislikes are comparing the here and now to an ideal situation. Oh, I don't like when this person acts like this, because ideally there's some ideal comparison happening unconsciously to a place where this behavior doesn't happen. So it's ideal. So inside then, when this person's acting this way and this is happening and this news and this screaming and this and that, my frustration or my disappointment or my dislike or okay, that's when something is disliked. Then inside I'm saying, no, like it should be better, because inside there's something saying eternity, eternity, eternity. Something always beautiful, constantly peaceful, constantly and subhanAllah, like the one who made us with this feeling, describes paradise so beautifully in the Quranic verses, right? Like you won't hear in it any vain talk. There will be this utter peace. So that's the first thing that came. I was like, subhanAllah, all day we're comparing to ideals, but if we're not aware that in reality we don't like what's happening now because we're comparing it to an ideal, instead of getting stuck there, then we can just pause and almost like smile at yourself, like Dr. Yamina would say, like, there goes that eternal voice screaming eternity again. Instead of getting mad at the promised chaos, the promised imperfection, the promised less than blissful experience here, I can just let it say what it's, either way it's talking, right? Let it say what it's saying. I don't like this. I don't like when this person acts like this. I don't like that this situation is still happening. And just know that, they're deeper than that surface thought. There's a comparison happening to an ideal. And that reality is just, it's uttering one thing on repeat like a heartbeat. It's eternity, 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 eternity. And then if I'm conscious, I imagine that maybe I can just smile and hold myself for a moment, like, oh yeah, okay, alhamdulillah, that's who you really are. Then sabr for what's happening. What can we do? This is the promise. That's the first thing that came to me about ideal. Does anybody want to add, comment, share, question? So the second thing, Ziba's comment about the plant, what came to me, I had a dentist appointment for my small friend today. And before that, I was just so worried. I'm like, oh no, what if we get bad news again? Like, what if they're going to tell us to do this and another big thing? And then I just let that concern, it could be any concern of needing care, really. You want the plant to be cared for, you want the kids to be cared for, you want the world to be cared for, you want the people abroad oppressed to be cared for. It's endless. It's endless. And it's so easy again to let those feelings, like you find yourself just so invested emotionally, like, yes, I need, and again, on the surface level, it's kind of exhausting, like as though I'm the one who needs this to be, oh, I hope the plant doesn't die. I hope that his teeth are good. I hope oh, it's exhausting, really. It's exhausting. Everything. So I'm wondering, instead of it being something where our emotions are constantly really the need for care, again, I remember Dr. Ali's voice very, very loud saying, like, don't be cheap with your feelings. You don't want, for example, the teeth to be cared for today or tomorrow, or the plant to be cared for today or tomorrow, or somebody's health to be good today or tomorrow. Actually, you want it forever. But it's so easy to get caught up in a momentary, please don't let the teeth be, please let this surgery go well, please let this, and again, live very horizontally, completely cut off from eternal need. If we're careful, every care, whether it's for the plant or whatever, it's not like I want the plant just to be good for this year, or my mom's health just for this year, or just for the sickness. Oh, please give her well-being and let her get better soon. It's still very horizontal because it's time and place, right? Does that make sense? In reality, every time I'm caring for somebody or want, it's eternity, 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 eternity. And I would have never made that connection. So Jazakumullah khair for sharing. Dr. Yamina, it's open if you want to add anything. I'm going to also add the question. So the sentence where he says, that is to say, the third line up, that is to say, the conscience being. So I like those two words together, conscience being. The conscience being attracted and drawn in this way is possible only because it is attracted by a true aim and captivating truth. So the fact that I want things to be cared for, or the fact that, you know, I'm worried about certain things, or I dislike certain realities that are happening nonstop, that is because the conscience is being attracted and drawn in this way. Only because, like, it's only one reason why you're caring for the plant and want the plant to be so good tomorrow and the next day, and when you come back from India, or, you know, that his teeth will be good today and forever, and just please never, you know, have a problem with them. And it's only because, or let's go global, not only a ceasefire, but we want everything to go back and everyone to be good and every grieving soul to be better, and all of these concerns that are so tugging at us in a time and space world. At a certain time, in a certain place, we want these certain things to be cared for, is only because it's attracted by a true aim and captivating truth. And those words I was wondering about, the original true aim and captivating truth, reminds me of something that is true, must be something that is lasting, and captivating, something that captivates to me is like something that it takes you, and right, that's what's happening inside. What's captivating me?
Captivating here is more compelling, irresistible would be a better translation.
Like irresistible. I think can you hear me okay? Okay. When you see it in writing, or in a little tweet or in a joke or whatever, that even if you don't realize that there's a voice inside you crying eternity, eternity, that truth is so compelling that it's still making its way to the surface. So you express it in this way, I want a robot dog, right? Because, okay, you might not realize that this is your conscience signaling to you, I am drawn to this true aim and captivating truth. You might not realize, but that's the message. That's like, just like beeping up to the surface. Look, why do you want this? Why do you want this robot dog? Like, ask why you want this dog that doesn't have any issues and it's just fun and lovely and never dies. Like, question that.
And look at the alternative when we're not aware of that the only reason why we want these things or we dislike these things or we like these things, the only, again, his language is very specific and particular. It's only because you're only liking or disliking something only because your reality, there's something real inside of you that points to your true aim and what really captivates you. And when we're so disconnected from this, then instead of being grounded, right, which is Dr. Yamina's, it's receiving Noor's way of teaching is to have grounded belief. If you're not grounded and if you're not even aware that all of this, the likes and the dislikes and the disappointment and the care and the need for this only points to this inner reality, then what every time something pulls me here and here and here, I'm going here, I'm going, yani you sway and get pulled back and forth from like to dislike to disappointment to this to that. So I mean that's the alternative. When we're not aware and we don't do the practice, then you're in the horizontal whirlwind of the world, yani, as opposed to being like, I mean, my vision of the goal of receiving Noor is eventually I'll just be able to smile at myself and being like, that's the eternity call again. Instead of being like, what? How could this, how, no, please, I don't want to, and completely losing my footing in every situation. And I'm talking to all of the friends here. I'm getting messages constantly of like, no, did you see the news? Here we go. Can we believe? Let's pause. There's something. Everything is only pointing to, and that's a big, what would be the word for it? He's introducing something very big, introducing it for you to see if you can sit with it, digest it and see if it, you confirm it as true in your life. Anybody would like to share?
Assalamu alaikum everyone, Saira here.
Walaikum salam.
Jazakallah khair. It's been a while. I haven't seen everybody, but Alhamdulillah, happy to be here. And I think, Sarah, the way you mentioned and Nurbanu, you were saying it makes complete sense that we expect and we want from a mental health perspective too, when a tragic event is ongoing and we want to stop it, we are looking for any way that we can see as a way to parse through it and end it. But because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's signs are that no, countries are not getting up. I think Lauren Booth's Instagram video clip I was listening to, and she said that how come in this world where there is so much military, not a single military has gotten up and stopped the genocides that are happening in Gaza and everywhere? Why don't we have militaries that stop this madness and this psychopathy? And then on the other hand, why is it that we are unable to have enough leverage in terms of appealing to humanity? It's not like there aren't humans and feeling, thinking parents or empathizing non-Muslims, but why is it not being done with over this carnage, this massacre in Gaza? Because the extent of it and the span of it time-wise is unbelievably horrendous and nothing short of hell for those who are facing it and also for us who are witnessing it. So with that, I would say that this 8th point resonates with me because I noticed that the conscience being attracted and drawn in this, what does it say? in this way is
In this-
possible. Yeah, is possible because it is attracted by a true aim and captivating truth. And if you look about in Quran, there are so many ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, by going through all types of mushrikeen, all types of munafiqeen, all type of mu'mineen, all types of that, all of this sorting has to happen. Because Allah Ta'ala starts out by saying that this Quranul Hakim is for the whole humanity, and Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is a Rahma and merciful Prophet for whole humanity. And with all of the Prophet's messages and all of the holy books or scriptures, divine scriptures messages, if still there are some within among us, for lack of a better reference, who are not human enough to recognize this, that this is wrong, this is unjust, this is transgressing, this is denying Allah Ta'ala, this is kufr, this is hurting the environment and being kazib, then 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 what more gruesome event will give everybody a jolt? And my understanding of that is in the light of what you also said, that there are bigger things happening behind the scenes that we are unable to see, like angels bringing everybody in the heavens, and those Muslims, like may we be one of them, or all of us be of them, who are opening up their minds and hearts to the reality, what is wrong with us, why aren't we strong? Or those non-Muslims who are realizing that the lies that we have been fed by the Western media and the powers that be, they are ill-begotten and they're ruthless. That they need to, in good moral conscience, stand up against their own sham of democracy rant and recognize that there is no liberty, justice, and equality for some who feel that they are able to, everybody else is at their disposal. Another thing that I will say, and then I'll keep it brief, is that our spiritual evolution is happening. Those are like I'm uh, um, realizing, even with like health and illness and COVID and all that, Allah Ta'ala is constantly giving us reminders by this destruction of any kind of uh, life cut short, that time is running out. And everybody needs to make sure that however long they have on earth, that A, they are on the right side, and B, they are mindful of the inevitable. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah, Sarah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think what you said is right, that especially with the 8th point, not just in the smaller things of day-to-day life, but on a global scale, as Sarah was saying too, where we constantly have opportunity to reflect on this and to see this voice crying eternity in ourselves, especially nowadays. So inshallah, we can all actually see it and make that vertical connection, as Sarah was saying. Let's read the 9th point, inshallah, and then we can start reflecting on it. 9th point. This is the message of Muhammad the Arabian, peace and blessings be upon him, who was truthful, veracious, and trustworthy. Indeed, his words opened the doors of eternal happiness. All that he said are windows opening onto everlasting bliss. In fact, he held in his hand the consensus of all the prophets, peace be upon them, and the unanimous agreement of all the saints, for after divine unity, all their calls and efforts were concentrated on the resurrection of the dead and eternal happiness. Is there anything that could shake such a strength? The 12th truth of the 10th word demonstrates this truth in the most obvious manner. As a reminder, I guess, before I turn over to any questions, or we can just give it to Dr. Yamina. Imam Nursi follows a similar pattern in different parts of the Risale Nur, where when he's giving us proofs for a certain thing, for example, here we're talking about why, you know, eternal happiness and the resurrection of the dead is like logically, not just logically, but is necessarily existent. You know, the observable universe, things around us, and then things that are related to the human experience. And then he'll go to the prophetic message and then the Quran. So this is the kind of like ladder that he follows. And you know, we the 10th word, we see it in some other treatises. So this is kind of a similar thing is happening here, right? So we, in the 7th point, we looked at some of the exquisiteness, virtues, perfections, yearning, compassion, immaterial words, all of those things. Then 8th point, we're looking at the man's conscience. And then 9th point, we are at the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the 10th point, we're going to go on to the Quran. So that's just like an overall thing to keep in mind. But yeah, the 9th point is, I guess the proof of the 9th point is that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was truthful, veracious, and trustworthy, right? So him and all the other prophets and all the saints have unanimously told us after the call or the kind of introduction of the idea of divine unity, the next big thing is resurrection and eternal happiness. So the idea is everyone who has come and who, you know, has a track record for being trustworthy and reliable and saintly, or a prophet who has scripture, who has divine guidance, is telling us the same thing, that there is one God, and after this divine unity, the next thing they say is, you will be resurrected after you die, and there will be eternal happiness. So this is a pretty big chorus of people and exceptional people, which gives a lot of strength, I think, to the argument. Dr. Yamina, would you like to add anything?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
The strength of the 9th point comes from the 8th point. Because he says that this message of the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, peace and blessings be upon him, is that he, whatever he said, all his message, all his teachings are windows opening onto the everlasting bliss. Here it's actually the same word, eternal sa'adati abadiyya. It's the eternal happiness. So it's all about this eternal happiness. And he's in the 2nd paragraph, he's talking about the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, as a representative of the line of prophethood. He's saying that he represents, he holds he holds in his hand the consensus of all the prophets and all the saints, all the people, the awliya who come, who follow the teachings of the prophets, which is after divine unity, after Tawheed, all the calls, all the teaching is about akhirah and eternal happiness. And this is what we see in the Quran as well. It's all about unity, Tawheed, and right after, it's always about akhirah. Because without akhirah, there is no eternal happiness. So now if we remember this 29th word was about the immortality of the ruh, the human spirit, actually of the spirit, because it's not only the human spirit, the angels, malaika, and the resurrection after death. And these three matters are related. And actually, without these three matters, Tawheed is not going to be established. Because in order for Tawheed to truly be established, we have to live from the ruh. We have to have that not live living horizontally means living in disconnection with reality and with the divine. It means living in the illusion that we exist independently. Somehow we don't even think about it when we are in that state. And so everything is an illusion in that state, and nothing is the truth because everything is distorted. Our perception is distorted. The biggest distortion is that we are unaware of we don't take into account transience and impermanence, which is like the big reality of this world. And this is a distortion that almost like flips everything upside down. Even good and bad, happiness and unhappiness, everything starts being messed up, truly messed up. So it's about the immortality of the spirit, the angels, and we saw before we get to be able to confirm the existence of the angels, we looked at the Melekut, the world of the angelic realm. And this is directly related to Bienitis. It means if I truly live in Tawheed, I truly see everything happening right now, within and without, within me and in the world, happening by divine command, be and it is, then I am living from the ruh, which is, the ruh is what lives in the world of Melekut, is aware and conscious of the angels and sees the angelic aspect of things rather than imagining as if things are only the physical part, and the physical part exists on its own as though. And so, which is actually a reflection of our self-image, self-perception of ourselves. We project it onto the world. And in that world, in that perception, there cannot be a creator, there cannot be a sustainer. And in that perception, God is not the God of the Quran. It's not a Rabb. It's not a sustainer here and now always. It's just a God that I cannot refute because it's in the fitra, because I cannot imagine existence without someone who gives existence. But it's a very distorted understanding or vision of who Allah is, and therefore who I am, what the world is. And the biggest distortion is that I take this transient, flowing world as my point of reference, as if it is the reality, which is not true. Everything is flowing from a permanent source. That is haqq, that is the reality, not what's coming here, always flowing, always passing. And so my focus totally changes. And that's why we have the immortality of the ruh, the angels, and the resurrection after death. The immortality, the eternity. And remember, we had the 29th word, we had the first aim, which is about believing in the angels. Remember, this is a belief, a pillar of Iman. Otherwise, if it was not mentioned in the Quran, probably we would not even talk about it. And afterwards, he said at the beginning of the 29th word, there were 4 fundamental points in the first aim. And there was a second aim. And the second aim is about the resurrection. So the first one is about the immortality of the spirit and the angels. And the other one is the resurrection of the dead. Why did he put the first one first? Because without that, there is no need to have that certainty of akhirah. And in the Quran, certainty of the akhirah is emphasized so much. But there can't be certainty of akhirah. It feels like before I die, how can I have certainty? Well, if you live from the ruh and perceive this world in the way we are taught in the Quran and see its reality here and now, then we will have certainty of akhirah before death. After death is too late anyways. So the second aim is about the resurrection of the dead and the end of the world and life of the hereafter. And in this second aim, there was an introduction and then 4 fundamental points. And this is, I think, was it the second fundamental point? I think it was the second. And in this point, there were, how do you say, matters, I think he said, relating to or pertaining to eternal happiness, and that God is able and does give this happiness, that happiness is with God. So not only we want happiness, we want it to be lasting and permanent. And this happiness that everyone is studying, careers, everyone is actually working very hard, seeking happiness. But if you ask them, well, we'll give you the best happiness, but for a limited amount of time, then from the beginning, because we know it's ending, it doesn't have any meaning anymore. It's not happiness anymore. It makes us, the fact that it ends makes us unhappy. So we have been, it's innate in our fitrah. It's related to the teaching of the beautiful names of God, Ta'lim al-Asma. And so it was related, this fundamental point is related to eternal happiness, and that God, this eternal happiness is with God, and He is the only one who gives it, and that the universe will end. So death is not only death of my death, because people think, okay, I'll die, but I leave something like a heritage, something behind me. Yes, but whatever you leave will also die. Whether it's 100 years or 1,000 years, it will also die. Everything. كل من عليها فان. ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. Only what looks to God remains. And what looks to God is what looks to the beautiful names, what looks to, therefore, to Akhirah. Only what is with God is permanent. And so he says how everything will end, everything dies, even the sun and the stars. And the resurrection of everything, and the last judgment, and how they are possible. And that they, not only they are possible, but they will occur. Of course, if you want, he mentions the 10th word is about the akhirah. And so these points are all about these points related to eternal happiness and how everything will end, will die, and everything will be resurrected. And this eternal happiness, which he says, it's because of a true aim. The true aim is worshiping God. And the irresistible, the compelling truth, the haqq there, that this haqiqah is haqiqat al-asma al-husna, which is with God again. We have been taught the names. If you remember, we did, was it the 22nd or 23rd? No, I think it was the 21st. Anyway, we did read about the miracles of the prophets and how one aspect of the teachings of the names to Adam. And of course, in the Quran, it's clear that Adam is every human being, and human being is created. Allah blows of his own ruh into human being, and with this, he's taught. That's why we are innately, the way we are created, we are taught the beautiful names of God, because something of God is in us. So we are made to recognize all the names. If you go the next word, the 30th word is about the eye. The eye being like a unit of measurement of all the names of God. So we don't have the names with us, but we recognize them. And that's why even if someone thinks that I never seen anything beautiful, but we have a sense of, this is ugly, I don't like it. How come? It means I have an innate sense of beauty, because God is the beautiful, and whatever he creates manifests his beauty in degrees. So when we see less beauty, we say, something is missing here, I want more. If I remain unaware of the reality of the world, if I ignore the fact that everything is flowing and transient and impermanent, and therefore focus on what's going on around me, and I never wonder what I'm doing in this life, and I'm just running with everyone, and like, why are we running? Where are we running? I don't even ask those questions, those basic questions. Then it seems like I like this, I don't like this. And all my life is about trying to repel what I don't like and get more of what I like. But at the end of the day, even if I collect everything I like, it's impermanent. What's the point? But in fact, I have been giving that to tell me that I have this thermometer. I like this more. This is more beautiful. So I have a sense of beauty. Where is this beauty coming from? Why do I have this need for beauty? I'm attracted to beauty. I'm attracted to goodness, to compassion. So then I'll find the source, and I will start looking at what is in me that is liking and disliking, that has this sense, this truth in it, and I start living from the ruh and start perceiving and interacting with the malakut side of things, with the getting the message, listening, and interacting with them as what they are. They are messengers, they are signs, they're speaking, not just things happening haphazardly. So everything starts becoming a mirror to me, a mirror to Rububiyyah. And so I start getting connected and better at connecting to the beautiful names of God. So instead of asking for one specific thing at one specific point, which is in the beginning, that's how we are created. We want for that. But then the more conscious we become, the more we realize, yes, but I want it all the time in all. I don't want my mother to be only healthy one day and only healthy from this illness. I want her to have well-being in all areas all the time, not only in this life, but after death. It means I want a shafi, al-mu'afi, and now we transcend the horizontal limited things, which is the limited, the transience. It starts fulfilling its purpose. Now I start getting the messages. So I won't get stuck in the appearance, like the signpost is too big or too small. I like the color, I don't like the color. What does it say? Read it. Where is this sign taking you to? That's more important. So it is related to the teaching of the names, which we are taught innately. It's already in our fitrah. And that's the only way we can relate, truly connect to ourselves, truly connect to the reality of life, of this world, to therefore our Rabb, our sustainer, the creator of all things. That's the only way to fulfill Tawheed. And that is the gist and the core of the teaching of the Quran, therefore the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ. And then following the Sunnah here is not only, again, the Sunnah of the Prophet is to live, to see the malakut of everything, is to live with the Quran primarily. I'm not talking about drinking with your right hand and this. Those are all there to remind us of the true teaching, of the true way of being, our state of being when we are in this world, being in the presence of this reality. I don't want to say in the presence of God, because sometimes, often, what we understand from God is already distorted. And so in this view, resurrection becomes, once it is explained to us, we read it, it's not only reasonable, we start witnessing it in the world here and now. And that's why we can be certain about it, because we're witnessing many resurrections all the time. In our life as well, we go to sleep, we wake up in the morning. And then sleeping and waking up becomes a miracle. Having the need for eternal happiness is a miracle, because we find it in ourselves. There is no way, it is beyond, how do you say, beyond rational understanding, between brackets, like what we think is rational. It is reasonable because it is there, it is within us. But it is a miracle because it's beyond anything we can imagine. And it is something that is related to human beings, just like the fact that we are conscious and we make sense of what we see. we can witness these realities. And this is really subhanallah. That's why witnessing the Shahada is at the center of all these teachings, because without the witnessing, all this becomes either non-existent, or at the best, like because we are reading it from here, it becomes an information, but it does not enlighten and transform our life unless we witness it. And witnessing it is pausing and observing, finding. And then when we find it, we don't just run away because, oh, okay, yes, I have this sense, and then forget about it. No, I have this sense. What does it mean? What does it mean is not something that I can understand intellectually, like 2 + 2. It is something that I can only ponder and contemplate and stay with and absorb and taste. It's like, can I understand food and the taste of the food intellectually? Just because I find out all the chemical reactions there, it does not tell me anything about the food and how it is delicious and how it brings me that comfort and that pleasure and that. So we are beings that are, the reason and the rational is only a small tool, and we have so much more. So we need to have time to sit and pause and reflect on all the every day, so many things we're exposed to, and we don't take the time to get through them, to filter them, to get what does all this mean? And that's why we get either so overwhelmed that we just suppress everything and go on living with our old way of perceiving the world, which is unchecked, based on false beliefs that have never been questioned. And we have like 2 different worlds, one that I live with and one that makes sense to me, that I read and that I incorporate sometimes a little bit from time to time. But I need to take time to integrate this divine knowledge, this guidance into my life. And the more I integrate it, the more I take the time to pause and reflect and taste, the more I start living in the world of Malakut. What I'm tasting is the taste not of the food, but the rizq, the razaq, and the beauty in that, the jameel, the wahhab. And I start now tasting the beautiful names of God. Now I can make shahada, that there is no God, no provider, no source of beauty except what we call God. Now God starts being, is a being that speaks to my heart, that is I'm connected to. That's why when you say Allah, wajilat qulubuhum, the heart trembles. Otherwise, it's just a word. So this eternal happiness is something very meaningful and very, very powerful. Everyone in the world, whatever all the goals and the aims they have, all revolve around this. Yet, Maha remembers Maha had organized a workshop, and it was about happiness. And most of the people were very settled and uneasy about world happiness. We are not here for happiness. We're Muslims. Because happiness, they all understood, I'm sure, well, I'm guessing, like something having fun. Yeah, but who said happiness is fun? Sa'ada is that deep happiness, that itmi'nan, that peace. And we tried to say, Maha was like trying to find all the synonyms to calm people down, but they were not. But it's because we are not connected to ourselves. People of the world will say it more clearly because they are looking for happiness in this world. And people of Akhirah, they're saying, no, 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 it's about Akhirah. Yes, but if you don't have that true happiness in this world, how can you witness and recognize it in Akhirah? It is related because everything we know God through his creation here. Otherwise, ما خلقت هذا باطلا. You have not created anything in vain. Otherwise, Allah wouldn't bother to create anything. So you think that what you are doing and eating and the world is unrelated to Akhirah? That's not what we are taught in the Quran. And Alhamdulillah that we have a main work that's been like for more than 1,000 years now, I think, for hundreds of years, well-known, Kimya Sa'ada of Imam Ghazali, rahimahullah. Otherwise, they will say, no, there is no Sa'ada in the... And we know that Sa'id or Shaqi in the Quran. We have the losers, the Shaqi, and the others are the ones who have itmi'nan, who have... So this is very important, and it's something that we can only feel and stay with it and realize how, yes, everything revolves around this sa'ada. And this sa'ada, this happiness, only makes sense and is satisfying and gives itmi'nan if it is eternal. And so now we need to leave everything and try to find the path to eternity. And we have the Prophet ﷺ bringing the Quran and saying, I am teaching you how to find eternity within transience. It's like, this is alchemy, the alchemy of happiness. This is the book of Imam al-Ghazali. This is alchemy. You have transience, and lo and behold, it is a window, it is a gate onto eternity. Isn't it worth learning this and then applying it to everything in our life? But we say we don't have time because I'm busy with this, I'm busy with that. Those are all excuses. We all have our excuses, and we are taught in the Quran. Deep down, we know it's an excuse. We find lots of time to do other things. We don't get our priority rights. And this is free will. It's a choice. I choose to surrender. I choose to follow this path. I need to renew this decision, this choice. Even if I start with small little steps, the istiqamah is what counts. Because if I am in the right istiqamah, in the right direction, after a while, those steps will be, I'll get more and more familiar with it. It gets easier and easier and easier, inshallah. I think we need to stop. It's for Maghrib prayer, inshallah.
Yes.
But if
Just
there's any comment or any question to end.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I see a question. Just 1 second. So if I understand correctly, and I hope this will answer the question that was typed here in the chat. Thank you, Jazakallah kull khair, Dr. Yamina. That connection was absolutely so helpful for me, and I hope it'll be helpful for everyone else. So with the 8 points, we're saying how everything that we experience, that we like or dislike, everything that we're interacting with in the world, in your day-to-day, as practical as it can get, you're doing things, you're either liking or disliking, you're either at peace with something or something is troubling. And all of that is comparing to something inside screaming for eternity, 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 like a heartbeat. So without that recognition, then we are completely, Dr. Yamina said, disconnected from the reality of who we are, completely running in the opposite direction, completely in a state of just complete unawareness. Now, if we pause with that eternity, 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 if we just, and inshallah, the homework will be, and I'll type it out in our Receiving Noor homework group. If you're not in it, please message us and we'll put you in it. If we pause with that, then there is an eternal name calling you there. In everything, there is an eternal name that is captivating, that is compelling, that is calling to make a connection with you right now. So if I get stuck in the news and I talk about this and it's mental health and it's this and it's the global politics and it's completely cut off from anything meaningful, from anything lasting, from any true happiness. Making the connection of everything happening by realizing that something inside is beating constantly for eternity, and in that there are endless and at least one eternal name calling to disclose itself to you. And if we pause there, the itmitnan, so Dr. Yamina said about this true happiness, sa'ada, when you feel constantly reassured. So this beat, the heartbeat is like eternity, eternity, eternity. I like this because I want it eternally. I don't like this because I want eternity of this. Non-stop all day, something is beating eternity, 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 eternity. And if I just one time of day, and inshallah, I'm going to make a Google form officially for myself and Urbanu. I'll be in touch with you and Dr. Yamin after this on how we can lock in homework weekly on a form that we can just submit to think about a few questions. One experience that you paused with. Inshallah, whoever's willing to practice, more than willing to do the homework. It's not for anyone to read, but if you would like to practice, then inshallah, feel free to do it. I'm going to share the link. This is the only path to sa'ada, to happiness. So I am compelled, I am ready, I am locked in, I am convinced that everything that we're doing is completely contrary to eternal, lasting happiness. And the only way to this path of real, true, lasting happiness is this deep felt experience of being constantly reassured, itmitnan, by eternal names. That means an eternal presence that is talking to you, that is disclosing itself to you, that's again and again introducing itself to you in order for you to get acquainted, for you to feel reassured, for you to feel secure, for you to feel at ease. And the more, from what I understand with Dr. Yamina, the more that this relationship becomes felt inside, that is the only way to start building not building, receiving, and it can only happen through tasting the experience by pausing. There's no other way. It's not mental, it can't be informative, you can't read it, you can't listen to it. You have to stop and actually do the work. So whoever's interested, inshallah, stay tuned for a Google form. And if anyone has any questions, then please feel free to share.
Yeah, I have a question. Assalamu alaikum. So as to be grounded, Dr. Yamina was talking about being grounded and carry on a life, a horizontal life, and also so as that this transient world becomes a point of reference. This really needs like an exercise, like a mental deep exercise that is not on the conscious level. Because if you carry on your life like your normal life, you would take the transient world as a point of reference, as has been said. But so as to start to interact with the world, with the malakut side of the world, you really have to do a deep exercise. My question is, I'm confused if you have to do this and the 8th point, in fact, 8th point is talking about man's conscience, pointing to the eternal happiness. So how this conscience is going to point to the eternal happiness, why in fact we are not conscious with the world around us. We are disconnected with ourselves, and we really have to do like a kind of exercise, a mental deep exercise, so as to connect with ourselves and to start to interact with the malakut side of the things. Thank you. So I'm a little bit confused between the 8th point, what the 8th point is pointing to, and what we have been discussing.
I felt like you answered the question already, Zahra, in your comments. Everything that we're gonna experience, yani inside, it's being compared. There's, and I'm not gonna be able to say it in good words now, but eternal happiness points to Asma al-Husna. The Sa'ada Abadiyya, they're the only path to true lasting happiness is through unlocking the divine names being communicated to me right now in this situation. Bas. How ba'a are those names being communicated to me right now? That's for everybody to pause with. What am I interacting with? Is it food? I'm happy that the matter is good. Let's see. Is it because the food tastes good? What is it that
But this is not happening on a conscious level.
Right. So we're asking everyone to do the, like you said, the exercise. Go ahead, yeah, Jamina.
So here, conscience is not consciousness. Conscious is something that we find within ourselves. When we pause, we are still, and so we listen to ourselves, because most of the time we're so busy that we don't realize what's going on in. So it's not about deep, mysterious work. It's about just take, when I say pause, pause from the worldly, pause from doing things, and just, for instance, you are eating, it says فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ. We say Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, but actually I'm either thinking of something else while I'm eating, or I'm thinking of the food. The food is, this food is fried, it is this. I'm still not with what I am experiencing. So just bracket out everything and just be present with what is going on. Food is easy, So I'm eating something that truly tastes delicious. And I feel all this like this pleasure. Subhanallah. What is going on here? How can this food in my plate doesn't know me? So the questions are what we need to ask. And the questions are taught in the Quran. The answer will be inspired. And the answers won't come in our minds intellectually. The answer will come in as an experience, and then we try to articulate that experience in words. But I don't have to articulate it in words. So when I have that, it says, La ilaha illallah. Can this food know me? Does it know me? Can this food give me this pleasure? This pleasure is, how can it do it? And we go quickly, we say, Allah gave me. Yeah, but now this experience did not increase my knowledge of Allah because I did not witness anything. I just put a band-aid on it, a claim on it. It's like the kid, you give him a math problem, he goes to the end of the book, there are answers. He sees the answer is 10. Let's put 10, Allah. It's correct, but you didn't get it yourself. I have to stay with, this is a miracle actually. Food entering my body, even the way it's entering my body is miraculous. I put it in my mouth and my mouth starts doing the work. So I'm now observing the body answering, interacting with the food. That's already a miracle. Subhanallah, what's going on here? Who is doing this? Clearly, it's not me. I just wanted it and it's happening. And then that's why we say Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Oh, Allah is beyond. These things can't be doing this. Because that act of chewing and digesting involves so many things within the body and outside the body, air and all. I need to be breathing and life. And the more I stay there and the more I reflect on all what is involved, I become like just in a state of wanting to go to sajda. I'm in a state of prostration before the miracle. I start feeling the awe, the gratitude, something otherworldly, something divine, something very humbling is happening here. And I don't need to give names to this. I know that this is not from the food, not from the La ilaha. Illa, whoever is doing this, that is Allah, that is my Rabb. So it's not about very profound, it's about being patient and practicing what we learn with patience and regularly, even if it is a little, regularly, until it becomes, I don't see the food as only something material, but just like when you see your friend, you don't see just flesh and bones, you see someone, maybe you don't even see their face, you look at their face only to see if their emotions and their thoughts, and you don't see a picture. And so it will be with the food. It will become rizq. It becomes a gift of divine power, divine knowledge, of a provider that cares. And when you see it, subhanallah, mashallah, tabarakallah. And then I say bismillah, not bismi anything else. And alhamdulillah, not alhamdulillah, I love the food and my heart is totally horizontally attached to the food. The more the food is nice, the more alhamdulillah, subhanallah, like, I'm amazed at whoever is giving me this deliciousness from something that rationally it is totally unrelated. So this is the work. It's not about very deep, it's about constancy, regularly, and being patient, and just stay with those feelings. Those feelings can be overwhelming at the beginning because we are not used to, and we want to stay in our zone of comfort. So do it again and again and again until we become familiar with those feelings of awe before Allah. You may even need to go physically into prostration, and that will start opening the heart, inshallah.
Thank you, Dr. Yamina. Jazakallah khair. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, okay, Dr. Yamina, just quickly, would you recommend, I guess, the frequency? I know we should do it more often than not, but would you say at least twice a day, at least once a day, at least before the prayer?
I mean, the more the better, but if there is a day without anything happening, then the next day is more likely to miss again. So there should be at least once a day, so that we don't lose touch with it. Because it's like a muscle, you build it. It's an awareness. So it's the consciousness there is different from the conscience here. In Zahra, in French, conscient is conscious, but here it's different. This is damir, man's conscious, which is his conscience nature. So they're two different things. They are related, but in the English language, it's a little bit different.
Okay, we can stop here since we don't want to be too late for Maghrib, and a good place to stop too. Next week, inshallah, we'll be going with the 10th point, and we'll let you guys share any reflections you've had over the week on the 8th and the 9th points. Jazakallah, Dr. Yamina, and everyone who joined. And as always, you can share anything you'd like in the WhatsApp group, and we'd love to learn from you guys too.
I want to remind everybody, if they want, that fasting is recommended starting Thursday, day after tomorrow, inshallah, onwards till Eid.
Yeah, thank you. So I think, was it Saturday that Dhul Hijjah starts? Inshallah.
Some say Saturday, some say Friday, and it's sunnah to fast Thursday anyway.
Mhm.
So I'm just being on the safe side.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
You're welcome.